Thank you. And I've got a couple of thank yous I need to make. First, I need to thank God for this amazing opportunity. You can work at an institution for 30 years and never get the opportunity to be a defensive coordinator, let alone at a top-tier institution like Oregon. So I'm truly blessed. The second, I'd like to thank our outstanding athletic director, Mr. Rob Mullins, and our fabulous head coach, Mark Helfrich, for having faith in my abilities and giving me a chance, an opportunity to lead the 2014 defensive unit. Third, I'd like to thank the football family, my personal family, and the extended football family, because it's been amazing, the support. The amount of text messages, emails, phone calls. It's amazing. You don't know who really has your home phone number until people are really trying to reach you. But it's just been amazing. And I just want to thank everyone for that support and for taking the time to express it. In terms of this position, I'm honored to accept the defensive coordinator position at the University of Oregon. I'm honored to represent all the former football players who left their blood and sweat out there on the field, some at Autzen, others at Hayward. And I'm truly honored to prepare and lead this future generation of Oregon defensive football players. I think we have an excellent defense. I think we lost some very good players. At the same time, I think we have a very strong core returning. Our system has given us an opportunity to create more depth. So although we're losing some great guys and some great players, we've also established and built some depth so that we feel good about moving forward. Obviously, there are some holes we need to fill, but I think the core is pretty good. And obviously, I think we have a great system. With that, I would like to open it up to questions.
In the back. Coach, congratulations. And what changes do you have in mind in terms of X's and O's, if any, and how will your duties as the linebackers coach be absorbed across the staff?
The first question, in terms of changes in the defensive scheme, I don't think we need to do that. I think we have an excellent defense. We have more weapons than we can use. I mean, we have 8 different things that we do. I think where we can be better is doing a better job of targeting the right weapon for the right targeting, and not using so many weapons but to hone things down and get our kids better prepared and more focused on lesser things so we can be more effective. In terms of my responsibilities, the current responsibilities and how they'll be redistributed, that's a Coach Helfrich's question. We have not had a discussion on how that's going to change, but that's something I'm sure that he will share soon.
Rob?
Coach, I'm sure Coach Aliotti was a big influence. Who else would you say helped shape your defensive philosophy that you'll put forth?
My personal philosophy? Rich Brooks. The thing about Rich is Rich, a very tough man, and he was very demanding. And I see as we take over and move forward, we're going to be very demanding, very fair, but very demanding. We need to have an attitude of how are we going to get these guys to do things as opposed to they can't do it. So we're going to spend a lot of time evaluating the players and their weaknesses and trying to address them individually. But we will set high standards. In terms of my philosophy, we need to be better with our discipline. And we talk about discipline, it's just the little things, and that's discipline in all aspects of your life. But in particular, we're speaking about football right now. But the little things is third down and we can't jump off sides. It's the little things, and those are mental things. Those are things that can be controlled. So we need to do a better job of identifying those things and then putting our kids in situations and drilling it over and over and over so we're better that way. I think fundamentals is a big part of my philosophy, and I know everyone here knows about fundamentals. It's tackling, it's blocking, it's you either getting moved backwards or you're moving the opposition, and obviously, we've been good in those departments. You're not 11-2 and 12-1, and you don't have these great records. not being good in those areas, but we can be a lot better. And that's something I think everyone's kind of identified that we can be better at in the fundamentals. And then obviously we need to be smarter. And when I say smarter, I'm referring to all the players need to be smarter. We all need to, with the evolution of the offenses. In the old days, you play a team and they're I-backs and they do one thing, and then you play another team and they're spread, Washington State, for instance, and they're spread and it's a different attack. Today, everyone does everything. And so on any given day, you have to be prepared for every single offensive attack. And to really perform and defeat that, we need to be overall smarter as a team. And that's coaches. We need to do a better job of preparing. And we need to do a better job of looking at our time at practice and how can we redefine time to cover everything. So when we see something that we hadn't practiced for a lot, we have an answer. We can dial that weapon in, boom. And then obviously smart is the player spending some extra time, being a little more committed to football year round in terms of their preparation.
Jerry Allen.
Coach, has this been a long-time goal of yours, or something in just the last few years that you've wanted to attain as a defensive coordinator?
I've always wanted to be a defensive coordinator, but as you go to the fork in the road, you make a decision early on whether you take off and you chase that dream and you go to a lot of different places, or do you love the place that you're currently at, and that you would be satisfied being an assistant at. And for me, I was blessed because I was here at Oregon, and I've worked with tremendous people. We've had tremendous leadership. And so if I lived here, stayed here, and finished my career as a career assistant, I would be happy because it's just that good of a place. And so I'm blessed that being in here for as long as I have has translated into the people around me feeling good enough and feeling that I've deserved a shot to do it.
Sean.
Are you officially the best-dressed defensive coordinator in the NCAA at this point? And if not you, then who?
I would say it this way. I don't know if I am, but I'm going to be some stiff competition down the road.
Jerry Thompson. Jerry.
Do you see the defensive tackle position as the position with the biggest hole? And if so, how optimistic are you in filling those holes with new recruits? I know you can't comment on specific recruits, but
we took the biggest hits this year are on the defensive front with Taylor Hart, Wade Kalikalipi, and Ricky. And those are big shoes to fill. Do we have all the answers right now? Don't know. I know that Defoe comes back, Armstead comes back, Balducci comes back, Sam Camp returns. All those guys have a lot of experience. I know that Stetson Bear is waiting for his opportunity. The time is now for him. I know that T.J. Daniels, we were able to move in redshirt, and now we've added. So we've got some guys here that have real good potential, and a lot of those guys have played a lot. So now it's just a matter of who comes in, who can we bring in recruiting, and that's obviously a priority. But I think a couple more pieces on the front, and I think we'll be in pretty good shape. Will we miss Taylor Hart? Absolutely. If you watch the Oregon game, particularly the last 5, he's a man on fire. Will we miss Wade? Yes, but I think we have some answers. We need a couple more, and a lot of this will be determined more when we get in spring, get a chance to actually see what Stetson and some of those other guys can do. But we're hopeful. Like I said, if we can get a couple more pieces, I think we'll be in pretty good shape.
Brian.
Don, if I'm not mistaken, you're the first black coordinator in Oregon history. What does that mean to you?
I wasn't aware of that, but and I don't look at things in black and white. I think I look at it more of the type of character guys and are they getting the job done. If it is, it's fabulous. I know for the greater black community, when minorities are in positions, it's good as role models. It's a good thing. I know that. So I'm proud. If that is the case, I'm very proud. And I need to do a fantastic job for everyone who's back there rooting me on.
Awesome.
Don, when you interviewed with Mark, what types of things did you talk about? I mean, you work together, so obviously you know each other pretty well, but what types of things do you talk about in the interview setting?
You know, the nice thing about an interview with, with your head coach, and you've been with him for a number of years, is that you don't go in and have to sell yourself. If you're selling yourself in that interview, then I don't think you have a shot at the job, because that person knows you and knows what you're capable of. What you talk about is your vision and what would be different, how you would conduct business different than it's been conducted, and that's the things we talked about. We talked about the vision and just how I see utilizing more of some of the technology things that are available now, and him being around me, he understands how I feel about discipline and some of those other issues. So those were easy things to talk about because we both agree in those arenas. So it was good. It was more like a talk at lunch. Obviously I had an outline of the next 6 months. Here's what I would do if I was the coordinator, so he could actually see step by step. Here's what I'm thinking. But a lot of the other information was things that happen every day. And Coach, how do you see this? Coach, I would like to do it this way. I would like to experiment and look at it that way. And it was very easy. It was very casual. He's such an awesome guy. It's so easy. And I was blessed because I had no idea when I walked out where we were going, but I'm sitting here now.
Sean?
There's a lot of attention paid to how Oregon's defense played against the run last year. They look at the Stanford game, the Arizona game, even the OSU game. How do you view that, and is there something you think you could do to essentially address that if it is an issue in your mind?
I think what I was alluding to earlier in the conversation is that we have to have weapons, and we have to dial those weapons in. So the first thing is we could be a little better prepared, and that's more of a coaches. That's more of a thing that the coaches can do. Then the other thing is fundamentals. I mean, you watch those games, and Stanford, they've got a ton of big linemen in, and we probably could have put in some bigger guys, but we're getting moved. The stalemates you're losing, it's like too big, a little ball and a big ball, and that's what's happening. So though that's correctable, there's some we've already addressed that issue. In fact, we put some packages in for the Texas game that we feel really good about. But the other thing is it's fundamentals. You play Arizona, and we gave up a ton of yards after contact. I mean, a ton of yards after contact, and the same thing in the Oregon State game. So I think the biggest thing is fundamentals. We've got to do a better job right now, bending our knees, moving our feet, rolling our hips. Because when you watch the film and just evaluate the players, you see it. I'm going to make a tackle. Here comes the running back. I stop my feet. His feet's still moving. That's 2 or 3 yards. We've got to change that. We've got to change the game, and we've got to move the pile to their side. And that's a mindset, and that's fundamentals. And it's definitely something that we'll be working hard at.
Eric Elkin in the back.
I'm sure you learned a lot from Nick Aliotti over the years. I was just wondering what your biggest takeaway was from him, and if you've been able to talk to him since officially getting this position, and what kind of advice he gave you.
I have not been able to speak with him yet, but he will be my first phone call. That's what I shared with him. The biggest thing about Nick is just his passion. Nick was first guy here, nonstop, great energy, and a real good man. So the biggest thing is just his passion and how he worked really hard. Nick is really an intelligent football coach, and the way he would break down some of the film and the way he looked at it, I think was something that I will actually talk to him about, because I thought he did a really nice job in that area. But his passion.
Rick in the back.
And step up in profile. What do you think coming into this about the outside obligations, the more public appearances, having to deal with us more often? Perhaps even how do you see your game day routine changing from the old position to now being the defensive coordinator?
You mean you guys have to talk to me more? The interviews, that part's not a problem. I don't mind talking. I know it is a step up. I was had a conversation with Dave Williford earlier today, and he shared with me the greater load from this standpoint. But that's fine. The appearances, I like people. And, one of my strengths with our players is that I engage those guys. And I'll engage you folks as well. That's just who I am. So I don't see that as a problem. I will say this, I'm not a very good golfer. So if we're in some type of celebrity event, don't put me on your team if you expect to win. And that's fair. But everything else, I don't see any problems with. Now, in terms of our game day operations, that's a topic that we'll go over in April. I'm assuming you're referring to just the operations, how we function on game day, the headsets, who's up, who's down. That's something that we'll discuss after, probably right before spring football, and then test out whatever that formula is during spring football.
Do you could see being on the field for games?
I don't know. It's more of a, I think that's something we need to explore. And, some coordinators are on the field, some are in the box. And I think, a lot of us, once we sit down and look at it, and I'm going to go talk to some people and just kind of get a feel for why people do it one way or another. Some people like to coordinate on the field to talk to the kids. We need you. You're that charismatic guy. We need you on the field talking to them. Other guys want to be in the box to see what happened and tell someone else on the field. So I just need to think about it. But that's something that will be explored in April.
Going back to Nick for a sec, is it at all daunting for you to try to fill his shoes?
Where's that question?
Right back here.
Yes, it is.
Is it something you feel like you can do well, though?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, when you say daunting, it's not something scary. Anytime you take a new job, you've got to go in, evaluate, and make a list of, here's what I think I need to do. Start crossing off, put it on the calendar, and start moving. Just initially, when you start thinking outside the box of the two inside backers and the two outside backers, and start thinking about how the whole thing fits together. Initially, you go, okay, but is it scary or something I can't do? Not at all. Not at all. I mean, every coach in that room that we have, all of our coaches here are capable of doing it. It's just you got to change your focus. You got to change the way you look at it.
Sean.
How do you see the 3-4 versus the 4-3, and should fans expect to see one more than the other this coming season based on your own personal philosophy on it?
Yeah, the 3-4, in my opinion, 3-4 gives you more versatility. In the 4-3, you declare where you guys are going to go. Correct? You slide the line toward the tight end, and everyone knows where they're lined up. In the 3-4, you've got the availability to attack. Because everyone you line up balance every play. You got the ability to attack from the right, from the left, obviously in the middle. So I like the 3-4. I mean, we've been a 4-3 team, and in some packages we do run a little 4-3, but we've been predominantly a 3-4 team. I think this upcoming year, the base of your 3-4 is that you can be, if you don't have as many D linemen, you don't have to put 3 on the field. So unlike a 4-3 where you have to have 4 guys. So from your depth chart, the 3-4 is going to help you there. And the other thing about the 3-4 is if you have a lot of linebackers, the 3-4 is good because now you got 4 athletic guys on the field. This upcoming year, I think our linebacker core is probably going to be pretty good. I think Tony's got a lot of experience. I think Kristen French came on. Tyson's played some. Rodney played a little bit. O'Shea moved over. We've got a couple of young guys that we can't talk about that are interested, and all the inside linebackers are back. So that linebacker core should be a strength. So the 3-4 should be a good decision for us this next year because that's what our personnel dictates. And we have more linebackers than we do linemen right now.
Jerry Thompson.
Yes, DP, I'm sure you're aware that a lot of people were expecting maybe some other guys to be named as the defensive coordinator. I don't know if you're aware of the names that would be floating around and everything. So the fact that you haven't been a defensive coordinator and people were expecting somebody else, does this motivate you even more? I mean, rise to the challenge of, or I'm sure you're challenged already and feel you're a duck and you want to do your best anyway. But kind of catch my drift that there's a lot of people are kind of surprised. So does that motivate you more?
You know, the fortunate thing for me, let me answer that two ways or two different segments. The fortunate thing for me is I don't follow the social media, so I really don't know who was in this job, and that's a blessing. And it probably, and once again, it's hard to get these jobs, so I'm sure there was some very quality people. You know, I've been blessed, Jerry. I've sat in the back of the room here at Oregon for 20 years with 5 different coordinators. Right? You can go Nick, you can go Bob Foster, you can go Charlie Waters, you can go Rich Dubler, you can go Nick again. And then I was at Cal with a couple guys. So, you know, to watch it, to be around it that long, it's just a job, right? You just got to be organized in detail. So it's not, I don't think I got hired because I'm an Oregon guy and for the love. I know Coach Helfrich sees the right characteristics and the right integrity and the right discipline and the right things in me, you know, to make this decision. If not, this decision wouldn't happen. This is not some gimme gift thing. This is, you can do it. Because they don't make those type of mistakes at this level. We don't, it just doesn't happen. So, you know, I've been around, I've been doing a lot of, you know, on the outside, you really don't know what we do, but I've been doing a lot of the game planning stuff for years, you know, a portion of it. So it's not something that's totally foreign to me at all. Yeah.
Eric Elkin.
Kind of along those lines, I think John Neal was a name that was popular internally for this position as well, and reports came out today that he's interviewing for the UAB head coaching job. How important is he to retain on your staff? Ifo, when he mentioned that he was coming back, and mentioned him being an important factor in that decision. How important is it to retain a guy like that on this staff?
You know, I can't address that because that's the first I've heard of it, and so that's probably more of a Coach Helfrich question, but because that's new to me. You know, I think that's something you should ask Coach.
I guess we're going to the back. Yes.
Now that you're the defensive coordinator, are you going to think about getting a Twitter or any other kind of social media account?
No way. I know it. No, you know, I do have a Twitter account now. I just don't use it very often, but I do have one.
Come back to the front, Ryan.
Don, on the secondary, what was your reaction to Ifo coming back, and who are some candidates to be next men up for the other starting spots back there?
You know, I think Ifo coming back was fabulous because Ifo he does everything right. So to having that guy in your program that those young guys can look up to, that takes care of school, takes care of this, yes sir, no sirs, it's wonderful. Plus, it's a fabulous player. So that him coming back is a big deal. You know, the other guys back there, we have a lot of young guys, and I think the spring will be really good for the Chris Cisse's and the Jawan Williams and the Tyree Robinsons. Those guys, all those young guys are fabulous. And so I think this is a big year, a big spring for us to do a great job once again before we get to spring of figuring out exactly how we're going to coach these guys and how we're going to bring them along to get them to a certain point because they can help us. I mean, some of those guys probably could have contributed this year. And then the other guys coming back, Dior's coming back, you know, Ifo's coming back, Dargan's coming back. So you've got some older guys that have been around and played a lot and a bunch of young guys with great talent. So we just got to mold it and put it together.
Don, you've also been the recruiting coordinator for the last few years. Is that a position that you can still do as defensive coordinator, or is that something you want to pass on to somebody else?
You know, that's something that we haven't discussed at this point, but I would think that I'm going to need to be studying defense and preparing for the other team. So, but whatever we need to do, I mean, we're all involved in recruiting anyway. So it's, you know, that responsibility has been a lot less in the last years than it used to be. But obviously, I need, as a coordinator, you need to be heavily involved because they want to see the coordinator, they want to talk to the coordinator. But in terms of some of the initial stuff, maybe not as involved. But I know I definitely need to be. I know you folks are going to want to talk to me about how we did in the game, and if we stop the run or stop the pass. So I think I need to be spending my time preparing.
Hi, Coach. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I was just wondering, given Oregon's unique playing style, do you think your extensive, familiarity with the program kind of set you apart and, made you the strongest candidate for this position? And also, what is the biggest strength you think you bring to the table?
I think one of the biggest things, one of the biggest factors for me in this is work ethic. I'm a grinder, and that's what I do. I'm a grinder, really organized, but I'm able to communicate with a lot of different people on a lot of different levels. And so I think those are kind of the things that were contributing.
With your promotion, obviously opens up another position coach spot. How much insight will you have in that decision, and has that process already begun? I've not.
Let me say it differently. That's a Coach Helfrich question. I haven't had a lot of discussion on that, but I know that Coach Helfrich is the person to address that.
Jerry Thomas.
Yes, Coach. On a little lighter note, before the Houston game, 82, right? 83, 82. 83. You shared with me in the history video, how Coach Brooks went to 3-a-days. Not 2-a-days, but 3-a-days. A little bit in jest here, but could you ever see yourself doing something like that if it needed to happen?
In a New York minute? No, they've changed the rules. We can't do that anymore. But in those days, yeah.
Please, we get a microphone back, Derek Dalton.
You mentioned earlier the fork in the road and making the decision to stay here. Was there ever a point where you thought about leaving? And was there ever a time when you almost took one of those jobs to make your way up? And I guess hindsight being 2020, now that you are defensive coordinator here, just kind of reflect on that.
There was maybe one time down the road where I kind of thought about it. And it, 10 years ago, I don't remember. But I thought about it, and the thing of, football is tough. Coaching football, you folks see us, it's hard. And you spend, 12, 14-hour days, some of us longer than that, 16-hour days with a lot of people. And to be in an environment where you get along with people and you're around them that much and you're talking about men and you're talking about egos and you're talking about all this stuff, but you get along and you thrive, that doesn't happen in a lot of places. And probably one of the best things that happened to me back in maybe 1989, I had an offer to go to Cal in administration, and I wasn't going to go. And Gary Campbell and John, it was Campbell, Ramsdale, and Graywood, I believe it was, all told me, you have to go. And I said, I don't want to go. They said, no, you need to go see how things work at different places. And it was a great experience because it was so different than Oregon. But it opened my eyes to the fact that every place is not like here. And when you've been, in one place for a long time, you kind of think, well, this is how the world works, and it was a lot different. So I started to reflect on that, and I looked at the guys I was working with, and for us, it's not, I have to go to work. It's like, it's time to go to work. It's fun. It's good. And so I thought about that, and you know what? My job is better here. So since then, I haven't had a lot of thoughts, about leaving. I've had some people talk to me now and then, but nothing big. Everyone knows he's an Oregon guy.
Rick.
And kind of on the same vein, now that you're the defensive coordinator, have you talked to other coordinators, or do you plan on going to visit other programs to get some outside perspective from what you're used to here?
That I will. It hasn't. I've talked to a couple guys, but someplace between now and April, between now and spring ball, I will get out and meet with some people, and then probably again in May. And that may be a combination of college and NFL.
Any more questions?